America's refusal to reckon with its racist and violent past is often illuminated in textbooks, where for decades, through omissions, twisted logic, and downright lies, aspects of our history, from slavery to genocide to forced internment and land seizures, have been so sanitized, you'd be hard-pressed to associate it with history at all. Take, for example, how this textbook describes slavery, shown in a video by Vox.
The master often had a barbecue or a picnic for his slaves. Then they had a great frolic. Even while working in the cotton fields, they sang songs. The beat of the music and the richness of their voices made work seem light.
Yikes. That's from History of Georgia, a textbook published in 1954 that was taught across junior high schools in Georgia for decades.
The danger of teaching whitewashed history isn't just tucked away in some dusty old textbook from the Jim Crow era. No, that danger is the latest conservative obsession, with more than 20 states taking steps to ban the teaching of critical race theory, including Idaho, where a task force is looking into claims of indoctrination in schools. They've now submitted a public records request to the Boise School District that could cost tens of thousands of dollars because, remember, racism can be expensive, asking for all materials, curriculum, and assignments used in classrooms and teacher trainings, as well as any materials using Nikole Hannah-Jones' 1619 Project. And joining me now is Nikole Hannah-Jones, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and the creator of the 1619 Project. And, you know, at first, it seemed like it was a fringe sort of attack on your project, on this project. It has now become a cause, just a sampling. In Nevada groups, they want teachers there to wear body cameras so they can monitor what they're teaching to make sure that they're not teaching things like the 1619 Project. Ron DeSantis in Florida has accused, he's making hay out of this for himself, saying he wants to make sure that we're not teaching kids to hate their country. In Arizona, they're talking about fining teachers $5,000 if they discuss hot button topics such as racial equity. This seems like madness, Nikole. Some of them are calling it, they want patriotic education instead. In your view, what is this about?
Thank you for taking time to discuss this, Joy, because I think we're in actually a very dangerous period right now. When we look at what these laws are doing, you know, a lot of people have kind of scoffed at them. When you read the language of them, they appear very silly. But when you think about what this is actually trying to do, we know that it is narrative that allows us to enact really dangerous policies. It is narrative that allows citizens to kind of accept these erosions of civil rights. So it's not incidental that the same states that are introducing these anti-critical race theory, anti-1619 Project laws are also introducing voter suppression laws. These things are going hand in hand. So the textbook that you just were reading from, right, this is part of the lost cause narrative. The lost cause narrative is what justifies Jim Crow. It is a narrative that really erases the cause of the Civil War, that really tries to valorize the South and to say that Black people were not ready for self-rule, that Black people could not self-govern. And so that then justifies the enactment of laws that deprive Black people of the right to vote, that deprive Black people of their citizenship rights. So I'm actually really concerned about what these laws mean. Outside of the fact that I think they are antithetical to the First Amendment, I think they are clearly designed to stoke white resentment, to really feed into this narrative that white Americans are under attack, that they are the primary victims of racism. And that is going to lead to some very, very troublesome policies. So we really should be concerned, even though the law seems silly. I don't think the emotions and the kind of really hysteria that they're intended to evoke is silly at all.
No, I agree with you because you're seeing these things enacted at the same time that some of the same voices are attacking Black Lives Matter, which a lot of young white people have joined, a movement. A lot of young white people have joined, which maybe their parents and grandparents don't like. And when you're also seeing this national security threat of white nationalism that is actually threatening the lives of, you know, people in state capitals. What do you make of the fact that they've now merged and fused this idea of critical race theory, which has nothing to do with K through 12 education, with the 1619 Project? They've basically turned the two things into the same thing. It is a way of vilifying your work and dragging your work into this dangerous narrative.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the new birtherism, right? So this is really trying to take a term. No most teachers have not heard nor studied critical race theory, and to, strategically use that to stoke resentment and to also really center it and hook it to the narrative of the 1619 Project. But why is that? When we look last year, right, these were the largest civil rights protests in the history of this country. Vidor, Texas, which is a 98% white town that had fought the federal government as late as the 1980s over housing segregation, was holding Black Lives Matter marches. And we saw in the polling the highest support for Black Lives Matter in the history of that movement. This is a reaction to that. So it's not just, young liberals. They were really speaking to all of the moderates, all of the conservative white Americans who also were looking at this and saying, oh, my God, my country isn't what I thought it was. So 1619 unsettles that narrative. And in unsettling that narrative, people are afraid that it unsettles power. And that is what we're seeing, is really a need to hold on to and maintain that power and divide that social movement towards justice by making white Americans, at least a segment of them who will kind of be susceptible to this message, believe that actually, no, you're under attack. They're trying to take your history. They've gone too far. And that's why wedding these together is working so successfully. And frankly, the media has played a big role in that, right? Because they were allowing Republicans to really lead with this idea that, oh, look at this bad diversity training. That's critical race theory gone amok. Those two things are not related whatsoever. But by telling the stories in that way, we've really fallen victim to this propaganda campaign.